All right, all right, all right. Are we here? Oh, people, do you hear me? Are we here? Let me just make sure it's working. I think it is, and it's ahoy to you folks here. I say you folks as if to imply that there's people actually watching this, but there's not really. Can I show you the screen? Uh, Here it is. It's as dead as a doornail here. And, just the other day, I caught them saying, is he paying for subscribers or something? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Um, this is usually a web development channel. And I got, I think, 11,000 subs by teaching web development. Now, I enjoy that and everything, but given the time of year, I thought it would be nice to do something different and just talk about whatever random garbage comes into drifts into my transom. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And so, so basically, it's a little bit of a waffle fest. No web development. In fact, not even much of a proper announcement. And so far, I think I'm doing okay because I've only lost a few subscribers. I think we managed to cover some incredible incredibly controversial topics, and I think I only lost two GitHub stars. So we did our little podcast on the Middle East situation the other day, and I thought it was one of our finest hours. We took on board all sorts of opinions and everything. We never solved the problems of the world, but we proved that you can talk about these things without us all being at each other's throats. Clearly, a few people have looked at that and been offended, and they've unsubscribed, which is fine. I'm okay with it. Um, but you know what? Even though this stuff is incredibly unpopular, I think last night's live stream had like 4 people watching. You know what? I don't care. I'm gonna finish this anyway, because that's the kind of guy I am. And with that being said, it's ahoy to Michael Levitt, who says, I don't recall being paid, still waiting on that check. And I have no clue what he's talking about. But let me know, and I hope I don't owe you anything. If I do, then I guess you'll have to just join the queue. Uh, so anyway, yeah, we've got a massive 3 viewers so far, but we are going to continue with this because I'm the type of guy who finishes stuff. And I decided that I'd like to continue my little series on modern philosophy. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because it's kind of a time of year where people are all writing resolutions, and some of you folks are coming up with goals and plans, maybe even dream boards. And it's that time of year where lots of us do this type of stuff and we say, this is the year that I'm gonna blah, 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 blah. All I'm trying to do is give you a little bit of context so that you can make some informed decisions. I repeat, I'm not trying to convert anyone, nor am I even trying to give you something along the lines of here's what I believe or anything. I'm just laying the information out there and giving you a little bit of context. I'm going to be covering Stoicism today. Now, I'm not going to be babbling on about how this is a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece during the Hellenistic period and all of that. I have my degree in philosophy, quite literally. I picked it up from Glasgow Uni. It was the biggest waste of time in my whole life. So I'm going to skip all of that boring bullshit, and I'm going to just try and present this to you in a way that's interesting and perhaps relevant to today. Now, in the previous live stream, I was discussing the rise and fall of the American self help movement. Say it slowly, the rise and fall of the American self help movement. And I was talking about how when the internet kicked off, a whole bunch of self help gurus who appeared to be pretty much exclusively from America exploded on the scene. And suddenly, people like Tony Robbins became household names. And we had bestsellers like The Secret the magic of thinking big. And of course, the kind of, I don't want to offend anyone here, but I suppose they might say the Bible of self-help, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And yesterday I was talking about how when you look at the self-help gurus who have been out there making gazillions and doing events in front of tons and tons of people, you hang around long enough, and I guarantee that at some point they will reveal a lineage that goes back to Think and Grow Rich. In the case of Tony Robbins, he was taught by, actually employed by, a self-help dude by the name of Jim Rohn. You go listen to Jim Rohn, and sure enough, he talks about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and all of that stuff. And I was talking about how Napoleon Hill had allegedly spent time with Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest guy on the planet Earth, around about we're talking about, this would have been the early 1900s. And allegedly, Andrew Carnegie, as the richest guy on earth, gave Napoleon Hill access to all of these movers and shakers, and in doing so uncovered the secrets of the universe, all to be revealed in the book Think and Grow Rich. And those of you who want to really go into this rabbit hole, you may have heard, or maybe not, but apparently the theory is that Andrew Carnegie had been accepted by high-level Freemasons and people like that, and they had passed on this information that for so long had been kept private from the masses. That's the theory, pretty much. Unfortunately, as I said yesterday, there are a few little flies in the ointment. The biggest of which is the fact that none of this stands up to any serious scrutiny, unfortunately. There's really not a shred of evidence that Napoleon Hill did spend time with Andrew Carnegie. There's really just nothing at all, sadly. So that, along with the fact that there are gazillions of people, I mean, I know 2 people who went to Tony Robbins seminars, for example. He's kind of like the godfather of self-help. I know 2 people who did that, and you know what? They had a great time, and they loved it. I think they paid about £2,000 a head, and they came out the other side entirely normal. So when you have millions and millions of people buying books and attending seminars, and everything's, well, kind of the same, it makes you wonder if maybe these dream boards and all of this positive thinking and all of that is really all it's cracked up to be. And so I think that the American self-help movement pretty much really peaked around about 2006. But over the last 5 years or so, it has started to dwindle a little bit. And in its place, we see a new type of philosophy that has emerged. And I say a new type, it goes back to, I believe it's 323 BC. So, a long time back. And that is Stoicism. Now, this, again, I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm just passing on the information. But this is a very different type of philosophy from the philosophy that we see in a lot of the self-help books, such as Think and Grow Rich, etc. The main starting point for Stoicism is to be aware of your limitations. And this really is the start point. In fact, there's a line in one of the Star Wars movies where Yoda says, named must your fears be, before banish them you can. Now, this is in stark contrast to the type of thing that we get from the American self-help movement that I described yesterday. the line that sums that movement up would be, you can accomplish anything if you can put your mind to it. Or the Kevin Trudeau quote, which I quite like, which is, you can have, be, or do anything you want. You know, I'm sure you've heard people saying, focus on the positive. Well, Stoicism starts from an entirely different place. They say, know your limitations. And the practitioner of Stoicism is not going to be somebody who is coming up with dream boards and positively, doing visualization rituals and stuff. Instead, they see life as a sort of game. And their goal is to recognize that there's certain things they can control and certain things they cannot. For example, you cannot control the thoughts of another person. So if you take somebody who is all on board with the American self-help movement, let's say some guy and his wife leaves, the American self-help practitioner might say, okay, I'm going to fix this because you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it. That person might embark on a course of self-improvement and goal setting and who knows what. Whereas the practitioner of Stoicism would just say, well, my wife's left, that's the way it goes. Now, I've done a really bad job of selling this. I mean, it sounds kind of miserable, sounds kind of unglamorous, and I suppose it is. There's not really any voodoo here. There's not any, unlike with the American self-help movement, we're not talking about energy anymore. We're not babbling on about the law of attraction. There's nothing like that. Instead, we have a very steely, cold, pragmatic sort of philosophy. I used to be a member of a running club called Shettleston Harriers in Glasgow. They have a slogan which is Latin. I'll probably get the pronunciation wrong, but it's nihil sine labor, and it translates to nothing without work. I think that that is very much in alignment with what we're talking about here. And if I've done a bad job of selling this, and if you're feeling a bit miserable, perhaps I can help. Pardon me, because I did a little search with the help of AI, and I think that sometimes it can really help to capture the essence of a philosophy if I can show you people, perhaps even in the fictional realm, who embody the traits that we're talking about. So I took a little trip to one of those AI bots. It was actually perplexity.ai, in case anybody's wondering. And I asked the question, can you give me a list of 20 characters from film and TV who embody traits that are in alignment with Stoicism? And I elaborated a little bit. And the answer that came back, and I've done this a couple of times and it's given me some different lists, but I think that the list even, is quite revealing. And it really helps us to get to the heart of this philosophy, which, as far as I can tell, and I'm not converting anyone, but this is the stuff that people like Andrew Tate are talking about, for example. This seems to be the direction that we're moving in, as far as I can tell. So the list included people like the following. So here are your characters, okay? It's a really interesting list. One of them is Clint Eastwood's character, Dirty Harry. And for this video, I had the thumbnail of Dirty Harry. In fact, it says the Clint Eastwood characters, so you could take the man with no name, etc. I've had a really good time the last week because they've had the Clint Eastwood season on TV, and I've been watching all of that stuff. So it's nice to give that character a mention. Others are John Wayne. Another, and this is going to be a surprise, but 2 characters from Breaking Bad came on the list. The first one is Gus Fring, the villain, and the other, Mike Ehrmantraut, who's sort of Gus Fring's henchman. There were a few other characters who came up. I've lost the thing because I had to re-ask the question. but the Maximus character from Gladiator came up on the list. And believe it or not, Rambo came up on the list as well. So I suppose the question is, what is it that links all of those characters? And I hope that you're familiar with them. What is it that they've got in common? Well, if you think about how they deal with problems, I mean, even if you take the word stoic or stoicism, right? What does it sound like? It kind of sounds a bit like stone, right? So if you think about a character like Gus Fring, I'm sure Darth Vader made the list as well, by the way. But you think about a character like Gus Fring or Clint Eastwood's character Dirty Harry, someone like that. When they have a problem, when something comes up in life, they are devoid of extreme emotion. So you contrast this. Yesterday I had suggested that characters like Rocky Balboa, the Karate Kid, we could maybe go into a few other movies from the 80s, they embody the American self-help movement. So think about somebody like Rocky and the emotions. Adrian, right? You watch Rocky and you'll see the depths of despair. Scenes where he's crying like a baby, really emotional. And then he wins and it's all lows and highs. But contrast that with the character Rambo, let's say, also played by Sylvester Stallone. Now, you have to hand it to Stallone because he did manage to portray two very distinct characters there. There's virtually nothing that Rambo and Rocky has in common. But look at how Rambo deals with problems. He's not going all emotional. He's not hanging out at the church or anything like that. He's not, outwardly at least, he's not superstitious. He just gets things done. And when you look at the list of characters who embody this thing that we're calling Stoicism, they all have that. They all have this sort of almost emotionless thing going on. And this is the idea. So what can we say about this in terms of pluses and minuses? And let's just try and be, you know, honest about this sort of thing and not sounding like a salesman. Well, first of all, I think it's sort of refreshing, is it not, to finally dispense with the miserable goal setting workshops and all of that stuff. Isn't that a nice thing? It's kind of liberating, so we don't have to worry about any of that bullshit. In fact, there's not really much to teach, truth be told. I did a little search before coming on here and just to kind of see what other people are saying, a little what is Stoicism on YouTube. To my disappointment, much to my disappointment, I can see that there's people doing seminars and books and workshops and video training and everything. I think that they are missing the point because that's not what this is about. It's kind of almost like a rejection of all of that. And instead, we're being very, very practical. So let's suppose, for example, you decide, I'm going to join the gym, right? I'm going to join the gym. Now, if you embrace the type of philosophy that we spoke about yesterday, when you walk into that gymnasium, you can have Rocky Balboa as your coach in your head, you know, you can win and achieve anything, you put your mind to it, etc. And that can work. It's a good thought process, right? But if you go down the Stoicism route, well, when you join the gym, you can go in the gym, same person, same situation and everything. But instead of Rocky Balboa, you're visualizing maybe a drill instructor. And the whole philosophy starts from know your limitations. And I'll show you an interesting little observation that I made. I was talking about how I'd been watching Clint Eastwood season. Can you see the screen? And I I had a little observation I wanted to show you here, because throughout the Dirty Harry movies, there's a line that he says over and over again, and I really hope that this works. If you can't hear it, I'll just tell you the line. But here it is. It's not Make My Day, by the way. The line is,
man's got to know his limitations.
did that come through? He says, a man's got to know.
Man's got to know his limitations.
And it's interesting, he actually says it over and over and over. I'm pretty sure that the writer of that must have looked into this philosophy. It's kind of a curious thing to say, but that is the starting point. Now, I think that going back to the pluses and minuses, I mean, one of the pluses is that if you have a framework of life whereby your start point is, look, I've got certain limitations. There's certain things I can control, and I can do this, that's fine. But if there's things I cannot control, I'm not even going to show up. Well, the nice thing about that philosophy is you are unlikely to experience a catastrophic failure. You're sort of unlikely. So if you think about, for example, a TV show like American Idol or The X Factor, we've all seen these delusional people who cannot sing, they've got no talent at all, and they go on and they make complete idiots of themselves on live TV. It's really sad, actually. It really is quite sad. And they get humiliated and they go through this. And then when they get rejected, they're just in denial because they are convinced that they're going to be the next Michael Jackson. We've seen that on TV. It's a very sad, and it really is quite a depressing thing to see when you think about it. Well, the practitioner of Stoicism is far less likely to go down that road. Instead, and by the way, one of the examples that came up was Spock from Star Trek, and also Data from Star Trek, the robot from the Next Generation. These characters are more evidence-based. So they're not going to go making a clown of themselves in front of Simon Cowell. Instead, they're going to look at the parameters that they can control, and they're going to focus on those like a laser beam. So this is the general idea, you know. And again, I think I'm not teaching, by the way. I'm not, or at least I'm not trying to sell something, but I would suggest that somebody who goes down that road would probably have a much easier time just setting up little achievable goals without any drama, without any voodoo or anything, you know, get out of bed before the crack of noon, right? And you are probably more likely to achieve success, whatever that means, you know, certainly more likely to avoid catastrophic failure. So again, I've got Dirty Harry on the thumbnail of this video. A better thumbnail might have been Rocky Balboa and then Rambo. Think of the two. These are the two philosophies that we've been considering here, you know. Now, the downside of Stoicism is that I think that Sylvester Stallone said it himself. He said the key difference between Rocky and Rambo is that Rocky is an optimist and Rambo is a pessimist. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that, especially if you're somebody like me who invested a lot of time reading The Magic of Thinking Big and Think and Grow Rich and all of that stuff, you know. If you're coming from that background to suddenly finding yourself saying, man's got to know his limitations, you know, maybe you're not going to be a rock star or an Olympic champion. Maybe you're not even going to be rich. This is pretty heavy. But the goal of the Stoic practitioner, let's say, is a lot more down to earth. You may remember Gus Fring in Breaking Bad saying, "What does a man do?" And again, Gus Fring was listed by the AI as one of these characters who embodies these traits. And Gus Fring says to Walter White, "What does a man do?" And Gus Fring says, "A man provides." That's what a man does, you know? So the Stoic philosophy is really far more humble, a lot less glamorous. There's not much voodoo or anything. There's no dream boards or anything like that, for better or for worse. And if we're being smart, there's not much seminars and things like that anyway. Save your money, you know. And I think that, interestingly, there's a whole political side of this that we could go into, but I'm going to try and avoid the political side. But let me just say this much. The way that the wind is blowing in the current political climate, my prediction is that you're going to see more of this type of philosophy showing up. And again, Andrew Tate is an example of someone who's actually said outright he's into Stoicism. Derren Brown, the magician, is another one who's said it and used the phrase, you know. So that is your little summary. I hope I haven't made it too boring, and I hope that this has some value. And again, all I'm trying to do here is give you a few different ideas and frameworks that you can take on board or reject or anything. One thing is for sure, though, if you ever went up to Dirty Harry and tapped his shoulder and said, "Hey, how are you getting on with that goal-setting workshop?" well, he'd probably laugh at you, because this is a different philosophy from the one we were talking about yesterday. All right, I think that's about it. I'm now going to look at the screen, and there's going to be like 2 people here. But watch, I'll be smiling. There is pretty much. So anyway, thank you very much indeed for passing by. We have Michael Levitt here. Mark, good to see you. We have Beau Farid. Let's make it posh. Let's make it posh. How are you doing? And says, "Be yourself." Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just talking about stuff that is just random. For subscribing, he says. Zen Dog, it's ahoy to you. And Jose Noventa says, "Deputy Dog." Go figure. And anyway, that was my little waffle. Now, as soon as the new year comes in, by the way, if I haven't been banned from YouTube, I'll probably delete these videos and go back to talking about coding, just so you know. There is no way that this is in any way sustainable, but I just thought it would be nice to come on and babble on about something else, you know. I don't know if I'll be doing another video this year, at least like this, because I have a little project I'm working on and it's taking up a lot of time. So I may do another. I think I'd like to do a little series talking about some random stuff. I have a few things to say about watches, by the way. I think I have a good video in me there. But I think that'll do us with our little modern philosophy waffle. Once again, I do hope that you're enjoying this. Oh, Sod Bako, ahoy to you. And please do ask questions, leave comments, suggestions if you want. I appreciate it. So Sod Bako says, "Why delete them?" Well, the reason why is twofold. First of all, there's hardly anyone here. Let's be quite honest about that, right? Hardly anyone here. I mean, by tomorrow, this video will have about 70 views. That'll be about it. But the way that the YouTube algorithm works is you get chucked in these little categories. And when you venture out with the categories and produce random stuff, like I'm doing, you log in the next day and you've got less subscribers than the day before. It's just a fact, you know. Not many, but a few. Also, when you talk about the type of highly controversial things that we've discussed here, you offend people, believe it or not. I mean, I did one just the other day talking about the situation over in the desert, and I think I must have offended a few people because I lost some GitHub stars and stuff like that. Now, these easily offended people, quite frankly, are wrong, because if they heard me out, there's nothing to be offended about, you know. My message is as simple as this: respect human life and talk. That's it. How can that be offensive, you know? But nevertheless, we live in a society of very easily offended snowflakes. And there's no question that if you keep on babbling away like this, it's only a matter of time before you offend people, you know. I have pretty much given up on the prospect of this channel ever doing, going to the stars or anything. So I'm genuinely not bothered. There's a lot of YouTubers who will say, I'm not bothered about subs, and secretly they are. Look, secretly I have been. But there comes a point when you're just resigned to where things are. If I'm going to make a dent in the universe, it'll probably be to do with something that I've built, and not to do with coming on here and just babbling away, you know. Anyway, so that's that. Do we have anything else? After after listening to DC, I started appreciating stability in software. Thank you. And says, I got drawn to your channel because of these wise ideas. Well, I really, really appreciate that. Somebody was crazy enough to give me a thumbs up. I'll give you a little bit of wisdom right now, okay? Right now. So do you remember how I was saying that quite recently, I think it was in the last week, somebody was saying, how can he have 11,000 subs and hardly any views? See, when that type of thing happens and you do something like this, and hardly anybody shows up, you know what? People out there are actually pretty smart. The people who watch this channel, even people on YouTube generally, they're a lot smarter than you give them credit for. And when something like that happens, the best thing that you can do is just be authentic. So you don't kind of like have a pretense of, well, there's 5 million of you. I guess the emails never went out. Should have sent them 2 hours ago. You don't do that. You just be authentic, you know, and people respect that and they appreciate it. And I have done videos in the past where I've been the guy smoking cigars and pretending to be super successful and all of that, but it always in the end comes apart at the seams. And so if you want any wisdom from me, just be authentic, you know. People appreciate that. I actually have to modify my accent when I come on, which is a bit of a downer. But apart from that, I'm being authentic. I'm not pretending to be Mr. Successful. I'm not pretending to be a marvel of modern day science or popular or to have all of the answers or anything like that. I'm just a guy, that's all, you know, living in a tiny little apartment here, or flat as we call them. And people appreciate that, you know. People appreciate authenticity. That's the best I've got for you. And it's funny how as soon as I say that, people click the like button. Do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? Interesting, right? Anyway, that's all I have for you today, folks. I want to say a huge thank you for coming along. I don't know if I'll be doing another one of these waffling videos this year. That might be me. But whatever the case may be, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've got something from it. These are just a few of the rambling thoughts that I've been having at this time of year. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, evening, morning, whatever it may be, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.